When my husband brought home a strange girl from the orphanage, a flurry of thoughts raced through my mind. Is this the stepmother of the young heroine from a nurturing story? Tonight, she will be bound to the nurturing system, and all the resources that rightfully belong to her own daughter will be transferred to the heroine. The stepmother is unaware that the young girl is actually the offspring of her husband and his past love. In the end, the young heroine will be reunited with her biological mother, while the stepmother and her daughter meet a tragic fate, with all the advantages of the stepmother's daughter ultimately bestowed upon the heroine. Before me stood a girl, soft and delicate like a little rice dumpling. Her timid gaze suggested reluctance, yet she bravely approached and took my hand. "May I call you Mom?" A shiver ran through me, prompting a reassessment of the two before me, leading me to firmly refuse. "Do not attempt to manipulate me." I discreetly pushed the little girl's hand away, scrutinizing her intently. She appeared to be just over 6 or 7 years old, roughly the same age as my daughter. Her complexion was fair, and her skin was smooth, clearly indicating that she had been well cared for prior to this encounter. Before me, the barrage of comments swirled. The premise of this nurturing tale bears a striking resemblance to that of a parasitic narrative. The host is the stepmother, while the young female protagonist adeptly utilizes a favor system to usurp all the affection that rightfully belongs to her stepmother, siphoning away the nurturing resources that should have nourished the stepmother's biological daughter. As educational resources become increasingly skewed in favor of the young heroine, the stepmother's daughter finds her circumstances deteriorating to the point of being relegated to a basement dwelling, living like a mere servant within her own home. Ultimately, the stepmother's daughter is deprived of her rightful fiancé, and she is ensnared in a web of deceit, losing her innocence and becoming pregnant with a child of dubious parentage. Thus, fate takes a dramatic turn. However, in a nurturing narrative, the young heroine must always take precedence. After all, these NPCs exist solely to serve her interests. I pulled my daughter closer, instinctively raising my guard. My husband, Ji-chung, appeared unfazed, pushing the little girl towards me, his brow arching slightly. "Xiaoqing, this is a child I selected for you from the orphanage. Haven't you always felt that having only one daughter is rather lonely? If I had been unaware that this child was the offspring of my husband and his former flame, I might have been moved by his benevolence and selflessness. But my once radiant smile faltered. Whoever bears the child must take responsibility. I shall only regard myself as the mother of my biological daughter. Do not dare to impose upon me." I waved my hand, sending my daughter back to her room. Gazing at this unfamiliar child, a wave of nausea washed over me. The perfect love and family I once prided myself on had crumbled into mere illusions. Once my daughter had departed, I calmly uttered the most venomous words. Was this child sent to the orphanage due to the death of her parents? Or were they heartless enough to abandon her? How pitiful for this child, while the selfish man and woman only seek their own pleasure, unwilling even to invest in a decent upbringing. Ji-cheng's face registered surprise. It was the first time he had witnessed such malice from me. He hastily covered the little girl's ears, his expression betraying an unusual mix of guilt and concern. "Xiaoqing, you were always gentle and kind in the past. Why do you speak such things in front of a child?" I scoffed, responding bluntly, "Child? My daughter, Wei, has already returned to her room. As for this stranger, I advise you to return her whence she came. Otherwise, do not blame me." The young heroine blinked back tears, adopting a facade of bravery. "It's all right. This beautiful auntie just needs to get to know me better. I'm sure she will come to like me." She looked at me with innocent eyes. "You know, I've never had a mother. Can I call you Mom?" Ji-cheng, observing the girl's stubborn demeanor, tenderly ruffled her hair and reproached me. "You lack the magnanimity even a child possesses. I truly feel disheartened for you." Just then, Qingtian was about to start elementary school, and I decided to give her school slot to Qingtian as compensation. My daughter, Wei, had only recently graduated from kindergarten. Her transition to elementary school had been meticulously planned by my parents and me. The chosen school, while not prestigious, boasted a long-standing reputation for quality education and exceptional faculty. The residence where my parents lived conveniently had an available slot. I had thought that after I rejected Ji-cheng's request that day, he would remain compliant and return the child to the orphanage. To my astonishment, the comments revealed that Ji-cheng had rented an apartment for the young heroine. Ji Tian downstairs, providing her with a complete set of toiletries identical to my daughter's. All the delightful treats and amusements in the household were prioritized for her selection. What my daughter and I received were merely the remnants she left behind. Ji truly was a devoted father, understanding that a child could not thrive if separated from him, hence his determination to keep her with him. In truth, the young heroine may appear small, but her intellect parallels that of an ordinary adult, as her soul is that of a transmigrator who had already reached her 20s prior to her arrival in this narrative. Ji had already taken the parents of the female antagonist to change their household registration. Once the young heroine's registration was complete, she would not only be able to attend school, but would also inherit the stepmother's family property. These revelations sent a chill down my spine. This indicated that the intruder I faced was a mentally mature adult woman. I had to remain vigilant about everything, particularly concerning my daughter's education. I called my parents, urging them to safeguard the household registration book and prevent Ji from taking it. However, they informed me that Ji had already taken them to the relevant office, and he had possession of the household registration book. Panic surged within me, but considering my parents' advanced age and my mother's heart condition, I feigned calmness. "It's fine. I will come to see you." My parents, sensing my anxiety through the phone, reassured me. "Sweetheart, did you have an argument with Ji? He said we should add Wei's name. This way, she can use the school slot." I had already prepared the necessary documentation for my daughter's enrollment. We merely awaited the processing. Ji current intention was undoubtedly to add Chung Tian's name. I drove at 70 miles per hour straight to the processing office. While the comments lamented, "What a twist in the plot, has the young heroine's system failed to effectively navigate the stepmother's favor? Why is the stepmother so desperately blocking the young heroine's enrollment? How dare this NPC deny our young heroine a school slot? Without it, how can she become childhood companions with the mayor's son? This is a critical step in usurping the stepmother's daughter's fate." I scoffed, determined that under my watchful eye, they would not be allowed to seize my daughter's future, nor her educational opportunities. Prior to my departure, I had already sent a message to my parents, instructing them to block Ji at all costs. Upon my arrival, I found Ji holding Chung Tian's hand, beaming as he presented the documents. Upon a closer look, I was astonished to discover he had transferred Chung Tian's household registration to my parents' name without my consent. How dare he place an unknown child under my parents' name without my approval? My marriage to Ji entangled us deeply. If it weren't for the need to gather evidence of his infidelity, I would have been tempted to slap him across the face and demand a divorce. But if I were to act rashly, he might preemptively relocate the child and assets, complicating matters further. Ji smile faded as he retorted, "Though Chung Tian is a child I rescued from the orphanage, does she not deserve our love? Are you unwilling to grant her even a single school opportunity? Your behavior is shockingly selfish." He adopted a posture of boundless love. "Wei has been with us for so long, adorned in finery. If you refuse to grant even a small chance for Chung Tian's education, then I cannot consider her my daughter. I am Wei's father. I have the authority to make this decision, and no one can alter it." With that, he embraced Chung Tian and resolutely turned away, leaving me no time to respond. After hearing the unfolding events, my parents wiped the sweat from their brows in alarm, comforting me. "No worries. In that case, before the school year begins, we will transfer the current available slot to your daughter Wei." Ji attempt to add that child to our household registration book would be a futile endeavor. My mother, concerned, grasped my hand while I gently reassured her, assuring her that I had my own plans. A month later, Ji faced a setback while enrolling Chung Tian. The slot had already been claimed by Wei, and he discovered that his registration had been transferred to a rural area by my parents, who shared the same household registration book. The comments erupted. "Goodness. Can it be played this way? Which family has a nurturing narrative where the child attends school in the countryside? It is entirely the fault of the stepmother's parents for being so cunning and miserly. They have clearly transferred the property, yet they still put on a facade, failing to inform the young heroine's father, ultimately causing harm. However, there is no need for concern. The young heroine has already recognized her father's unreliability and is preparing to confront her stepmother on her own. How can I entrust my daughter to someone who is so cruel to a young child? From now on, my daughter must reside with Chung Tian, under my watchful eyes, where I can feel at ease." With the two girls living together, surely there will be no favoritism. Ji-chang, hands on hips, gazed at me as if I were an adversary. The barrage of comments before me erupted. The father is too kind to the young heroine. Realizing that her life downstairs is rather lonely, he wishes for his daughter to accompany him. After moving in with the stepmother's daughter, she will undoubtedly have more opportunities to engage with her stepmother, thus enabling her to utilize the system to win her over. Our little Qingtian is soon to have a sweet, soft mother. The parasitism is about to commence. Seeing these comments, I was incensed and raised my hand to slap Ji-chang. You can even relinquish your daughter's quota for schooling. What else is beyond your reach? If you wish to take away the child I bore, you shall not succeed. Ji-chang, with a glint in his eye, suggested that Ji-chang Tian move into our home. I had been concerned about finding a chance to obtain Ji-chang Tian's hair for a DNA test, and now, unexpectedly, Ji-chang was delivering her right to my doorstep. I agreed with alacrity, for only under my vigilant gaze could I better monitor these duplicitous parasites. A few days later, Ji-chang, leveraging connections and financial means, arranged for Ji-chang Tian's school transfer, ensuring she would start on the first day of term alongside my daughter. However, it wasn't long before Wei Wei's homeroom teacher sought me out. Wei Wei's mother, is there a possibility that Wei Wei's psychological state is experiencing some issues? Several children have reported that Wei Wei has stolen their possessions. Please come to the school at your earliest convenience. We need to discuss this. My heart sank. Wei Wei is my nurtured child. She would never engage in such unscrupulous behavior. The mere thought of Ji-chang Tian being at Wei Wei's school made my instincts alert me that something was amiss. As I approached the teacher's office, I found Wei Wei surrounded by a group of girls, with Ji-chang Tian standing protectively in front of her like a hen shielding her chicks. This scene caught me completely off guard. The girls began to voice their grievances. Auntie, you must intervene with Wei Wei. She is being intolerable. She coveted the coloring pens we brought and has stolen several from each classmate. The homeroom teacher, Ms. Wang, hurriedly arrived, her expression one of discomfort. Wei Wei's mother, indeed. Several colored pens were found in Wei Wei's backpack. Wei Wei, resembling a pitiful puppy, cowered behind Chang Tian, her eyes brimming with tears. I approached and lifted Wei Wei into my arms, gently inquiring about the events that had transpired. As I had suspected, Wei Wei was entirely unaware. Upon awakening from her nap, she discovered numerous coloring pens belonging to other children in her bag. Qingtian, visibly anxious, stepped forward. Pretty mommy, it's all right. I have protected Wei Wei well. No child can bully her. I gazed at this resolute young girl and pondered whether this entire affair might be a misunderstanding. For such a young child to stand up amidst the accusations directed at Chang Tian demonstrated remarkable courage and an absence of fear in the face of the crowd. Such admirable qualities could not possibly align with the character described in the comments. Yet, as if anticipating my thoughts, the barrage of comments revealed the truth. The young heroine is indeed cunning, first framing Wei Wei and then feigning protection of her stepmother's daughter. The stepmother must be intrigued. Indeed, who would suspect that such a young child orchestrated this entire scheme? If she did not devise such a plan, how could she effectively utilize the affection system to embed herself within her stepmother's household, thereby altering the fate of her stepmother's daughter? As expected, the stepmother's fondness for the young heroine had risen to 30%. Feeling a chill course through me, I studied my resolve and insisted that the teacher review the surveillance footage. I apologize, teacher, but I cannot believe my own child could commit such an act. This elementary school is equipped with comprehensive surveillance. I demand to see the footage. Ji-chang Tian's face turned pale for a moment before she retorted, Mom, I witnessed Wei Wei taking the items. Shouldn't she be made to admit her wrongdoing? Demanding to check the footage implies you do not trust the teacher or us. My gaze hardened. Do not call me Mom, I only trust my daughter and the truth. Ms. Wang's expression soured. Only the administration has the authority to review the footage. Ordinary teachers lack this privilege. However, Wei Wei's mother, we have conducted a thorough investigation, and this matter, while it has caused some concern, is not significant. If we escalate it unnecessarily, it may affect Wei Wei's interactions with her peers in the future. My brows furrowed. If this incident were to be brushed aside, it would undoubtedly label Wei Wei as a thief among the children, leaving her with profound psychological trauma throughout her elementary school years. It struck me that this teacher seemed intent on pacifying the situation, allowing my Wei Wei to swallow this bitter pill. As I hesitated over whether to report the incident to the authorities, the office door swung open. A woman clad in professional attire, her glasses perched elegantly on her nose, entered with an air of sophistication. Her neatly tied black hair exuded competence and professionalism. The name tag on her chest read Principal Chin Kuyuan. The woman spoke calmly. Wei Wei's mother, rest assured, I will provide you with a satisfactory resolution. My daughter, nestled in her arms, called out sweetly, Principal Auntie. Upon hearing her daughter's voice, the principal beamed, immediately taking her into her embrace. Ms. Wang's expression softened at the sight. Excellent. With Principal Chin here, this matter will surely be resolved justly. She can access the surveillance to uncover the truth. Standing at a distance, the young heroine's countenance transformed upon seeing the vice principal. Her earlier distress dissipated instantly, which puzzled me. However, seeing my daughter so fond of this principal eased my concerns. Our principal is known for her fairness and kindness towards her subordinates. Wei Wei's mother. With Principal Chin involved, you can be assured that this issue will not leave Wei Wei wronged. Ms. Wang assured me fervently, yet I could scarcely absorb her words. Once again, the barrage of comments sent a shiver down my spine. Wonderful. The stepmother's fondness has risen to 80%. She is oblivious to the fact that this vice principal is the biological mother of the young heroine, the white moonlight in the stepmother's husband's life. Affection towards the young heroine or her biological mother will stack the affection levels. My gaze remained fixed on this woman, my heart seemingly frozen. The vice principal wore a radiant smile, yet her eyes conveyed an indescribable sentiment, one that felt slightly distant, yet devoid of malevolence, leaving an unsettling chill. As though I were trapped in an icy realm despite the warmth of June. Ignoring the pale-faced Ji Chung Tian, she promptly accessed the surveillance footage, proving Wei Wei's innocence. She even arranged for Ji Chung Tian to apologize to Wei Wei, clarifying the truth of the matter. Observing her merciless reprimand of my daughter, I found it rather amusing. How ironic that Ji Chung Tian could have easily gained admission to this school through her principal mother's influence. It was astonishing that they would go to such lengths to seize our property, ultimately leading Ji Chung to seek connections to enroll Ji Chung Tian, likely through this very principal's channels. Once Principal Chin had ensured the school's affairs were in order and completed her tasks, she turned to me, her brow furrowing slightly as she murmured, "Strange, why hasn't the value increased?" However, she quickly turned her head away. This is not something I should concern myself with. I have already made every effort to atone. The barrage of comments around me began to murmur, shouldn't this plot have concluded long ago? Why is it so challenging to win over the stepmother's daughter? Astonishingly, the favorability rating has even decreased. Typically, as the unexpected hero, the principal should have seen an increase in the stepdaughter's favorability after clearing her mother's name. Is it possible that the small female protagonist's misdeeds have been exposed, leaving the stepmother unable to rejoice? On the surface, I exhibited no signs of a flaw, merely walking past her while discreetly tugging a few strands of her hair. She winced and cried out in pain, to which I quickly apologized, loosening the metallic clasp on my bag. I sincerely apologize. Did my bag's clasp snag your hair? Despite the deep-seated disdain in her eyes, she could only respond with a curt, "It's nothing." Once outside, I contacted a private investigator, instructing them to closely follow the vice principal. I would transform the fate they so cunningly sought to seize from my daughter into a stroke of misfortune. Since elementary school, my daughter, who once relished the early mornings, had become exceedingly lethargic, refusing to rise even when the school bus arrived. I called her name for over an hour, yet she remained motionless in bed. In contrast, Ji Chung Tian sprang from her slumber the moment her alarm rang, diligently washing up, tying her hair, and adorning herself in shoes and socks. After preparing breakfast, she would be the first to sit at the dining table, her small eyes darting around eagerly. She stuffed a large mouthful of food, and after reluctantly consuming the vegetables she typically shunned, her eyes gleamed mischievously. Kawaii is truly disobedient. She still hasn't gotten up. What a little sloth. I wonder how her academic performance will fare. Listening to Qingtian's pointed remarks, I couldn't help but furrow my brow. Her commendable behavior seemed intended to portray her as more capable and intelligent than Kawaii. Yet, this stirred an unsettling suspicion within me. That very day, I took a leave of absence and brought Kawaii to the hospital for an examination, which indeed revealed abnormal levels of sedative components in her bloodstream. The doctor informed me that someone had surreptitiously added tranquilizers, akin to sleeping pills, to my daughter's food. Fortunately, the levels were not high and the exposure had been brief. Although Kawai had recently felt dazed, she would recover in due time. I installed surveillance cameras at home, and within a single night, I identified the culprit. While serving the family bedtime milk, Ji Chitian would take advantage of my absence, whether to use the restroom or fetch something else, to slip sedatives into Kawai's cup. The dosage was just sufficient to induce a state of confusion without causing harm. My lawyer has been busy organizing my and Ji Chang's assets, and we've completed the paternity DNA tests. However, Principal Chin and Ji Chung have not crossed paths much lately. Chin Kyun always left home with utmost caution, and the private investigator failed to capture any useful photographs. The evidence I possess is insufficient to confront Ji Chung directly, thus I opted to retain the video footage. Moreover, after Ji Chitian administered the sedative each day, I silently replaced the spiked milk with that of her beloved father. It seemed that once detached from the small female protagonist, the barrage could not discern my actions. Their perspective remained predominantly focused on the small protagonist and her biological parents. In a matter of days, Ji Chung began making frequent errors at work and struggled to rise in the mornings. Believing the medication to be ineffective on Kawai, Ji Chitian increased the dosage, resulting in Ji Chung sometimes languishing in bed all day, listless and lethargic, his complexion wan and dull. During meals, he would often doze off at the table, having lost considerable weight due to inadequate nourishment. His visits to the company dwindled, leading to a backlog of contracts and tasks. I instructed my staff to capitalize on this opportunity and directly seize the collaborative projects originally designated for him. To secure Kawai's custody post-divorce, a stable source of income is imperative. During this time, my lawyer also clarified my premarital assets and undertook measures for asset protection. The small protagonist, realizing that the sleeping pills had not yielded results over an extended period, secretly hid in the kitchen to converse with her system, which I overheard as I emerged from my room. She seemed rather exasperated, facing the lack of progress over such an extended period. System, didn't you say that as long as I transmigrate into a nurturing story, I would attain a fate of prosperity? Why can't I even manage to deal with a stepmother? I'm truly becoming agitated. Do the sleeping pills you provided have any effect? If not, stop increasing the dosage. It could be fatal. I merely desire a good fate. Why must I resort to causing harm? I listened intently, wary of any malicious schemes she and her system might concoct. The system seemed to respond to her, and after a moment of silence, she erupted into laughter. Despite her tender age, Ji Chingtian's youthfulness allowed her to engage in illicit activities without the possibility of accountability. To ensure safety, I had no choice but to send my daughter to stay with my parents, conducting everything in secrecy, necessitating even greater caution on my part. I continued residing in our original home. Through the surveillance, I observed that during lunchtime, Ji Chitian had been furtively adding some powder to the meals. Seizing the moment she left to wash her hands, I discreetly sniffed the contents. Upon inhaling the scent, I immediately covered my nose and frantically rinsed my nasal passages and mouth. My family was well aware that I had a severe seafood allergy, and Ji Chitian had added shrimp powder to my food. Watching the 6-year-old stealthily tampering with the ingredients sent a chill down my spine. The barrage shifted its tone upon witnessing her actions. How did this turn from a nurturing tale into a suspenseful thriller? I previously watched a film called Orphan, which was genuinely terrifying. Isn't winning a stepmother's favor something that can be achieved with a mere flick of the finger? Why resort to administering allergens? I felt like abandoning this narrative when it turned into deliberate harm. That night, a frustrated Ji Chitian conspired with her system once more, clearly showing signs of being on the verge of breaking down. Why, after all this effort, does this stepmother still remain unresponsive? Isn't she severely allergic to shrimp? The surveillance footage captured her tugging at her hair, despondently sitting on the edge of her bed. I want her to have an allergic reaction, and then I'll suddenly appear, administering the allergy medication to her, thereby elevating her favorability rating, and she will become my mother. I don't wish to harm anyone. I merely want to alter the fate that rightfully belongs to me. Why is this task so arduous? I could not hear the system's voice, but from her responses, I discerned that the system would alter the plot's trajectory, granting her an opportunity to save me. However, if she failed to seize this chance, She would lose her system and revert to being an ordinary person, destined to live the life originally intended for her. I couldn't help but reflect, since she was aware of her predetermined life, wouldn't it be wiser to avoid it earlier or strive harder? Even if it meant exerting an extra month's effort, it could create significant ripples. The barrage also referenced the original intended narrative. If the small protagonist did not rely on the system to gain her stepmother's nurturing, she would soon succumb to youthful folly, eloping with a blonde and ultimately perishing on the operating table. Yet, if she succeeded in changing her fate, she would quickly possess extraordinary academic talents distinct from those of her stepmother's daughter and lead a smooth-sailing life thereafter. Numerous users with different usernames in the barrage echoed my sentiments. It truly is absurd. Does a poor fate justify the need to go to such lengths, even jeopardizing another's health in exchange? I would call this a parasitic narrative. The young female protagonist possesses an unwavering determination and ambition. It is only a matter of time before she attains wealth. Why then must she heed the system and tread the morally ambiguous path of harming others? Upon discovering the pact between her and the system, I promptly visited a notary to draft my will and set my affairs in order. While I could guard against immediate threats, I was helpless to entirely evade the covert dangers posed by the young protagonist and the system. However, as Little Wei is still young, I must strategize for her future. From the prior exchanges between the young protagonist and the system, it appeared she was not a heartless individual intent on causing harm. Rather, she was simply terrified of facing a dismal future. If she is afraid, why not strive to alter her destiny through her own efforts? After all, that is the most grounded approach one can take. Not long after, I was promoted to the position of company president, a role I had originally been competing for alongside Ji Chung, which ultimately fell into my lap. Initially, the upper management expressed concerns regarding my gender and the potential distractions of motherhood affecting my career. Thus, despite my superior performance in projects compared to him, Ji Chung remained the preferred candidate. Thankfully, the young protagonist, Ji Chung Tian, had provided the upper management with tranquilizers, leading them to believe Ji Chung was gravely ill, which resulted in his swift removal from the board. Upon ascending to my new role, the company organized a team-building exercise involving a popular outdoor hike. My colleagues showed great enthusiasm, and I decided to join them, taking precautions to prevent any unforeseen incidents by equipping myself with a GPS device, compass, and a first aid kit. Many colleagues were astonished to see me burdened with such an array of supplies. The hike was pleasantly easy, as we trekked from the base of the mountain to its peak, surrounded by breathtaking vistas that evoked a sense of grandeur. However, while I was admiring the scenery, chaos erupted behind me. I had underestimated the potency of the narrative. In the distance, a swarm of bees, led by a queen, was approaching us. And as the frenzied bees attacked, panic ensued. People were fleeing in all directions, and in the midst of the commotion, someone shoved me from behind. I dashed toward the railing, hoping it would provide safety, but alas, it broke, and I plummeted downwards. In my frantic grasping, a small hand unexpectedly emerged from nowhere, clutching me tightly. The barrage of comments exclaimed, "I can't believe it. This system has gone mad. How can a 6-year-old hold onto an adult like this? It's utterly absurd." Ji Chung Tian's little hand clung to me without yielding, her eyes bloodshot from exertion, her small hands reddened and bloodied from scraping against the cliffside. Yet her gaze remained resolute. In front of me, she queried the system. What is the outcome? The system's response disheartened her, and a bitter smile crossed her lips, revealing her despair. Just as I braced myself for a fall, she unexpectedly pulled me back up. Grateful to be alive, I sat on the ground, watching the little rice dumpling not far away as she rolled about chaotically, now appearing like a normal child, crying and covered in dirt. She muttered angrily, "Damn system. Ruining the life of a promising youth just to follow a plot. I want to go home. I miss Mom and Dad." My colleagues stood in shock, bewildered by the profanities uttered by the 6 or 7-year-old girl. With the system now distancing itself from her, it signified that I no longer had to be wary of her. To my astonishment, after failing her mission, she still chose to save me. Rising to my feet, I approached her and helped her up from the ground. Contemplating her previous actions and today's heroism, I felt a conflict within me. Had it not been for her, the dangers would not have arisen. I considered slapping her, but her tender face resembled that of my daughter, rendering me unable to do so. I shook her shoulder gently and said, "You are still so young, yet your intellect is remarkably mature. If you truly wish to change your life, now is the perfect moment to begin. Free yourself from the system's control, and you can undoubtedly become the person you aspire to be." Upon hearing my words, her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at me. Then, as if a light bulb had gone off, she began to smile, tears spilling from her bloodshot eyes as she bowed her head in shame and uttered a timid apology. The private investigator failed to capture any images of Principal Chen meeting with Ji Chung. In the subsequent academic years, although Principal Chen maintained an unkind demeanor towards Kuei, she refrained from abusing her power to make things difficult for her. The investigator sought out witnesses from that time, uncovering the astonishing truth. The reality often defies belief. Ji Chung and Chen Kuyuan were classmates who, at a reunion, encountered each other, but by then, Chen Kuyuan had already achieved success and had a loving boyfriend. It was Ji Chung who took advantage of her drunken state and assaulted her. Upon learning this shocking narrative, which starkly contrasted with my expectations, I resolved to confront her openly. Honestly, from a woman's perspective, I hoped Ji Chung would face legal repercussions. According to Chen Kuyuan's account, Ji Chung was exceptionally depraved, coercing her under the threat of exposure to bear his child. After the child was born, she placed him in an orphanage, only for Ji Chung to retrieve the child later. Her assistance to Ji Chung Tian stemmed from a lingering guilt over sending her to an orphanage in the past. The frail Chen Kuyuan sat by the window, sunlight casting a gentle glow upon her thin back, her head bowed as she sobbed softly. Ji Chung proclaimed that I was his white moonlight, something he could never forget, yet to me, he was merely a rapist and harasser, someone I wished never to encounter again in my lifetime. The ice water on the table had yet to melt, yet the condensation had already spread, seemingly flowing into my heart. A month later, I laid all my cards on the table. Ji Chung agreed to divorce me, granting me custody of Kuei and relinquishing most of his assets and properties to me. 3 months later, Chen Kuyuan had gathered sufficient evidence and filed a lawsuit against him. The video capturing her being carried upstairs while intoxicated was irrefutable proof of non-consent, and I provided her with DNA test results to complement her evidence. Now, Ji Chung Tian has changed her name to Chen Chung Tian and lives with her mother. Ji Chung served a few years in prison. Upon his release, he was disheartened. Consumed by despair, he resorted to drinking and failed to lead a normal life, eventually succumbing to uremia, his life a tragic tale of hardship and destitution. We have all embarked on lives that diverge from the original narrative, perhaps a testament to the power of change. The next time I encountered Chung Tian, she was a transformed individual, her eyes no longer filled with the timidity of before. Despite still carrying the poise of adulthood, her entire demeanor radiated confidence. She continued to relish sweets, enjoyed horror films and romantic variety shows, and occasionally insisted on her mother taking her out for fried chicken. Before her journey into this alternate reality, she likely led a life of comfort and tranquility. In her future endeavors, she developed a strong aversion to those with blonde hair, consistently excelled in her studies, and even initiated a career in media before graduating from university. Meanwhile, my daughter delved into the realms of science and engineering, continually advancing her education. What brings me the greatest relief is that both Chen Kuyuan and I have established our own careers, living lives of abundance and fulfillment. This concludes the tale. Thank you for listening, and until we meet again in our next story.